Hey guys, this is Todd. Thanks for attending Personal Development Hacks and hanging out. We've got a great guest today, so just sit tight and we'll get going in a second here. All right, so for those of you out there that look at me follow on social, I issued a challenge this week to basically spend 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes before you go to bed just thinking of all the positive things in your life. So if you've seen that or you want to take that challenge, just it's 10 minutes a day. So just do it. And then, either connect with me through Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and let me know how it's going for you. So I will bring our guest in. Her name is Kimberly Mansfield. Hi, Kimberly. How are you?
Hi, I'm really well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Yeah, of course. So for the audience that maybe doesn't know you or know what you're about, why don't you introduce yourself and just kind of tell us what you're focused on right now?
I'm Kimberly Mansfield. I am a personal excellence and effectiveness trainer, a clarity and results coach. I also divorce custody coach because I'm also a third career family law attorney. So I've developed some methodologies around this. I've been coaching in various outlets for about 25 years, the last 10 of which has been through the vehicle of family law as an
Gotcha.
attorney. So now I'm shifting the focus all the way over to just the training coaching side, speaking, training, coaching,
Yeah.
speaker, what is
Yeah.
it?
Appearing as a guest
Speaker
on podcasts is fine. Yeah.
and do podcast guesting, which is lots of fun.
Yes, it is. So one of the things you said in there is clarity. Just helping people with finding clarity. Like, what do you find that people are missing or not paying attention to with that specifically kind of in mind?
Well, to me, I mean, the methodology is called skilled clarity. And that is just sort of the umbrella of the things I was doing when I had to kind of try and frame them up. It's sort of a 5-part or 5-step framework
Mm-hmm.
that is, I call it awe, the pause, and the inner CEO, which is 3 parts under. So I think the clarity of that is really a personal clarity. Because here's the deal, we're all doing things all the time. We're all learning things all the time. We're taking trainings and teachings, and we're reading, and we're going to work, and we're getting new tasks, and we're doing all these new external things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we have goals, and we have challenges, and we have adventures, and all sorts of things. But all of that stuffs, what we get out of it is really predicated on what we bring to the table. And that we so often are going through all the motions. Life's busy, life's crazy. So we're going through the motions and we're doing all these things, and we can have lots of accomplishments. We can get great accolades. We can be really, really good at things, but we're never, ever, ever our ultimate best until we've done the skilled clarity part from the inside out, as far as what do we bring the table. Because let's just say you could be perfect at something, perfect in your field, perfect at a job, perfect whatever. Like, where is any room to go there? Like, really, if you're really seeking to get the most out of life, where is there to go? And the only place there is to go is on the inner frontier.
Mm-hmm.
I think a big translation or a big undergirding of this for me is that all of that affects our health and well-being. And that I am a super geek on the mind body connection and all things neuroscience and quantum biology and that stuff. So, really, when you're talking about how do we go about this, when we're shoving all that, when we're not attending that inner stuff, when it's not part of what we do every day, it
Mm-hmm.
is not our best efforts at our own health and well being. I mean, it's detrimental to our health. It supports our health to be operating with all of those things. So I guess I just want to bring fuller humans to the table, because I know I've experienced it, and it makes life really cool. And the effectiveness, it
Yeah.
upgrades effectiveness, but it makes life really cool, even when life, quite frankly, kind of sucks, because life's gonna suck sometimes.
That's
Um,
true. I mean, everyone has, bad days, bad weeks, bad months, whatever. But I agree with you in the fact that, it's like, even if you're making progress through your life, if you're doing it in this kind of haze, is the best way I can think of, kind of visually. If you're doing it in this haze where, yeah, you're busy and yeah, you're doing all this stuff, but you don't have clarity, well, then can you tell us where you're going? Like what is your clear identified, like, this is what I want? And I think it's part of, I mean, I think a lot of people, well, most people don't do it, but the few that do, like, I do like a self audit like every 6 months. And it's just taking a hard look at, like, what's going on, what's not working, what is working, where do I see opportunities to improve, as well as, and that goes from business to personal to health to relationships with my kids and stuff like that. Um, but it's a great thing to just step back from your own life every once in a while and just analyze it like you're analyzing your friend or something like that. And yeah, it might be, you might, you know, not like what you're looking at, but I'd rather have it out in the open, not like it and
Yeah.
change it, rather than you just keep plowing along and it's still there, that whole time, that one thing that if you can just find clarity on that, then you can really, accelerate your growth and, you know, change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah, I do. I do something similar. It sounds like I do an inventory at the solstices, at each solstice. That's my midwear year and my biannual inventories, and I don't do resolutions and that sort of thing. But I certainly, again, in taking inventory, I know places I put things on, what do I want to do this year? Where do I want to grow? What do I want to think? How do I want to feel? What are things I want to add to my life or challenges that I want to seek? I think the biggest thing, at least about my approach, methodology to clarity, is that going those steps beyond just being able to see it, write it out. I mean, that's huge. That's a lot of digging for a lot of people who,
Mhm.
I gotta say, general population's never, done this, but it's certainly, people are learning the benefits of doing it. But it's beyond that, because the next step, which is the O in the inner CEO and my framework, is the ownership part. And I think it's seeing your role in what you're taking inventory of. Until you take inventory, you can't see your role. And we're so often, and I would just see it. I see it in my clients. I see it in my friends. I see it all around me. You can see it walking down the street or going to the grocery store. Like, people are really sort of flailing at
Mm.
what's outside of themselves, the external aspect, without giving pause to their role in it. And it's a dead end, because your power's not out there with other people. We'll never be able to change them. They may change, and you may be an influence or a part of that change, but you can't just mechanically change them. You,
Mhm.
you don't have a crystal ball. None of us are clairvoyant. We don't know exactly what they're thinking, even when we're sure we know exactly why they did something. Like, we really don't, and we can't. But what's our part in it? Like, our part, however we're showing up, if we have a situation, we have a role. And finding our role is where our power is. Sometimes the power is just like taking a breath, because there is nothing to be changed in this moment that's within your changing besides taking a breath.
Mhm.
So it's really getting down to, where is our power? And then it gets really exciting. People get really psyched about, oh, wait, I have all these, resources within myself, and I can, and they don't start automatically. Even when we're not really living in a haze, but we're just living by default and going through the motions every day and doing the things. We've all been there. I've been there, which is a big motive for teasing this out and breaking it apart, because it was very, ultimately, really unhealthy. And the calendar just ticks by, and it's like this one short life is just racing away from me.
Mhm.
And you can make lists. I may be getting a lot done on the day, but I'm not living in any of it. I'm not alive in any of it. And when you can inhabit, after a while, it starts out very mechanical, all of these things you and I both believe in. But after a while, when you can inhabit and it starts to habituate a little bit, or at least it's more readily there, sort of your list of go-tos, and you start to, it's hard. You can only theorize until you experience it, that there can be this levity, this buoyancy underlying all of those things we have to click through in a day. So
Mm-hmm.
my big thing is I think you can upgrade. I know we can upgrade life without upending it. And I think that's really prohibitive to people. I really think too often people are like, oh, that'd be great. You know, if I had the time, if I could change this, I can't move that. I can't stop doing this. I have commitments. I have responsibilities. Like, no, 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 no. We can make all of these upgrades at the foundational level
Mm-hmm.
without changing all those things that are bona fide life commitments. I get it. I have a lot of them. And that's why when my plate became even fuller these last few years, that is why it became so important to break this down into component parts. It couldn't be like, well, you know, when I clock out on whatever responsibility, then I get to go like let down, be myself, you know, for all the people who live for the weekend, life's too short to
Mm-hmm.
live for the weekend. And this is a way to go about your week in more fluidly without necessarily changing everything. Now, often things change and there is a spillover effect all around, but that doesn't have to be where you start. It doesn't have to be that you know you just flip life like a deck of cards and rearrange and quit your job and all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you should, I don't know, but that is not the jumping off point. And I think people don't know that. I
Right.
think it seems all or nothing. I think that, you know, knowledge and kind of a permission, an invitation to do that is kind of, I mean, I had to learn it. Like, whoa, it's not an either or. These aren't mutually exclusive. This is actually a yes and. And it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of crazy the good things it does on the chemistry and circuitry, our internal chemistry and circuitry. So on the health and well-being side.
Yeah.
And
You know,
that's
with
just being grateful for one short life here.
oh yeah, I mean, we all have expiration dates, like as we sit here, right? I mean, it's sad, but it's true. We all do, you know. Um, but like what we were saying, it's you know, with permissions, I think too often people look for someone to give them permission to make a change or do something different. But the most powerful thing is you do not need permission at I don't care what age you are to retool your life. Like if you want something and you find that deep core like that inspiration that it's that's why it's important that you make this change. You don't need anyone's permission. You need action. Um, you know, and like you were saying with the the autopilot of life, it's I mean we've all been driving and you're going to some place that and you're just driving along and all of a sudden you kind of look up and you're like, how did I get like 3 miles away from where I was?
Or
But
30.
yeah, or 30, yeah. But the problem is that imagine that's your life, that you're just on cruise control and you're not paying attention to all the stuff that's going on around you. And you're right, that's what it takes courage on the part of the individual to recognize that they want something different and to have the courage to either do something, seek help with it. um, you don't have, like you said, you don't have to be an expert at everything. So lean on people that have either been through it or they've read way more books or they've, got some education or life experience, whatever. Um, everyone, it almost to a T, like everyone that is on this show and that I've met so far going through this, we're all in this for the same reason. It's just to help people. It's not, we're not sitting here and, I don't have a Bentley outside, and, you're not like, watching the waves crash over your patio that's on the ocean. We're in this to help people, because each individual that we get to open their eyes and start making progress, the world becomes a little bit better place. And so it's just more and more and more of people that aren't on autopilot, that are engaged in their life. They're using their own superpowers, which is really, people don't think they have superpowers. You have two. It's called consistency and dedication. And the most successful people in the world, to a T, that's what they have. And they utilize them like their superpowers. Like, once they set a routine for a workout, or for, their schedule or whatever, like, they're consistent, and there's no wavering with, this is what I'm doing. And then they're dedicated to their art. People think, well, an artist is a painter or a musician. No, everyone's an artist. You're designing your own life and future. Think of it that way. So,
Yeah,
uh,
to add on
yeah.
the permissions, I think sometimes just a nuance of what you were saying, because that permission thing, and we don't think about it. It's like, I don't need permission from anybody. Like, I mean, if you were asked someone, they're like, they would not. But, we're digging deeper, right? We're talking about the subconscious here, and programming and wiring and all of that. But I think too that when we dig down and finally we get to, permission, that it's seeking permission. They don't need permission from the people they think they need permission from. That sometimes there's permissions elsewhere. You and I give people permission. We can give ourselves permission. I know that I was raised to be, I was always, I don't remember not being a deep thinker as a kid. The things I used to ponder, but that was silenced. I was raised to be shiny and silent. And it took me decades of flailing for permission to actually feel and to be liberated, to actually exist without needing someone outside to say I existed. I mean,
Mm,
when you're told don't speak unless spoken to, that means you don't exist unless someone else says you exist. So I
right.
didn't exist on my own accord. That wasn't my own duty. I hadn't, there was no agency in that. So one, I hit mid-teen years and kicked off 10 years of self-obliteration. And it was just this of trying to break out the inner knowing, that I actually existed, and me trying to basically rebel against, I don't unless someone else says I do. And then, trying to strike out and rebel and be like, yes, here I do. So 10 years of self-obliteration,
Mm,
of alcohol and substance abuse, and lucky to be alive, 1,000 times over, shocked to wake up. So then things shifted, and I started to learn, there was, that I still needed either an outlet or that permission, but I was so defiant that when I started acting and directing and coaching, which I did for about 10 years, that was where I had permission to actually live all of these things inside. And I thought, you know what? I can't be the only one like this. And so my reason to act, direct, and coach was to go out and go first. I thought, I'll go first because I will give these people permission
mhm.
to also feel, to also exist, to liberate what's inside of them, because I can't be the only one. I'm not the only one. And so I
No.
do think there's a form of permissions. I think that getting down to a discussion of it's a different thing, and that by virtue of being raised, brought up, there's programming, and that those are the programming is where we look for the permissions. And sometimes, and in some households, the permissions are there, and in
Mhm.
others there aren't. So we have to find permissions somewhere. We also have to find the knowledge that it exists, that it actually exists, that that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was painfully naive most of my life. I still think that. I think that I was one of the most naive human beings I have ever met, certainly in growing up, certainly in, I couldn't have conversations because, well, somebody needed to invite me into a conversation or I wasn't supposed to speak, but it took a long time to get out of
Mm-hmm.
it. I mean, the irony is, look now, I'm a speaker.
Right.
And, I've done 10 years of litigation. So, and hence my memoir title of my near death rebellion.
Right.
Because that's what got me here. And so I'm grateful for it. I wouldn't change anything about the path, but we all have a path
Mm-hmm.
to tease apart. And I think that's what drilling down and getting really nuanced and granular in clarity is about. Because from there, we really have our power. It's really when we own our most complete selves. And I don't think we should leave any of our selfness on the table. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if we want our very, very, very best shot at anything, or we want to execute the best, exist the best, have the best relationships, health, well being, we got to bring it all or
Yeah.
have access to it all. Or we aren't the best. And I'm not a fan of that word really, but I think you get where I'm going.
Yeah, for sure. And I think obviously, you experienced this, eye-opening, like, this is not me, this is not what I want, through the course of your destruction. I mean, for lack of a better term, self-destruction. And I think while there's we still are here to help those that have experienced something like that. Ideally, what you want to have happen is people reach out because they're not there yet, but they feel it coming, and they are proactive in, I need to figure something out before I go down the rabbit hole. And that's where we step in and we give them guidance and coaching and support and permissions to do all these different things or whatever's in their brain and avoid the rabbit hole altogether. Because
Absolutely.
that's, I mean, that's one of the keys, is just, and you can stress it and you can talk about it, but it happens less than you'd like, but is helping people proactively rather than, oh my God, I'm in the middle of this, I need to get help now. Now, we're
Absolutely.
still, I
And
mean,
mine wasn't, and to be clear, my revelations unfolded once I at that time got out of that lifestyle and post treatment, and it took decades to unfold.
mhm,
And I guess part of permission is the knowledge that roles, people like you and exist. I mean, people get personal trainers, we get financial advisors, you get a baseball, basketball, football coach for the kids, you get all this. They don't know that there are these personal
mhm,
uh, coaching situations that actually can elevate life and that can turn those corners. I mean, I think there's so many all or nothings in life, and I'm such a let's get in the gray area. That's where the potential lies, right? But people think that getting help is therapy or counseling, and sometimes that is exactly what's prudent in the situation, no doubt about it. But then
mhm,
there's all these people in the middle that are like, well, I'm not there. I'm just trying to sort this out. And it's like, you know what? Maybe they'll get it sorted over a while, but do they want to get further faster? Like, how soon do you want to get there and get on to the possibilities? What you
right,
can be. How do you feel better? Where are you more focused? Where are you more useful? Uh, feel like you're making progress, that, and get out of the status quo of
uh,
things. And again, I think people get in the automaticity and don't really consciously think about, oh, I don't have to live the status quo. Life doesn't have to be Groundhog Day. Nobody wrote that it has to. It's not, there's no law anywhere.
yeah,
So those to me are also permissions. And it's knowledge, permissions. A lot of those are the same to me that people just don't know.
mhm. Well, and that's where, if people like you said, if they're kind of, well, I'm not there yet, but I'm kind of, I think I can handle this. The difference and why a coach or, one of us gets involved is if you think of it like a big U, right? And if someone's like at the top on the precipice and all of a sudden they're like, I can do this. Well, as soon as they start down the hill, they're going to deal with, anger, frustration, lack of commitment. They're going to be, finger pointing and everything like that. And then they'll kind of bottom out. And it's like they come to a somewhat understanding. They come up with a game plan for how they're going to get themselves out of this. They start to maybe read some stuff or whatever. And then on the way up, that's where they're actually putting their plan in place and they're, making strides and stuff like that until they finally get to the top. And then it's like, okay, I've dealt with this and now I'm good. Where you and I get involved is we help people that are right on that precipice skip all this and just go straight from you're about to deal with something. Based on our experience and what we know and how we can help you, we're just going to avoid going down and up and we're just going to go straight across. We're just bridges, right? Like we're there to help because we've had experiences, we've heard experiences, we, have a ton of just networks and people that we talk to that have dealt with the different stuff. And it's like, we can help just get you to where you want to go quicker without having to deal with, doing it on your own and all the stuff that you don't know is out there that we know is going to happen through your journey through that.
Yeah, point taken that, we can save some bottoming out. Maybe we can raise the bottom. I don't know if you're familiar with Peaks and Valleys, the Spencer Johnson, Peaks and Valleys, which is one of my favorite books and that I've lived countless times over. And the best thing that he says is we're all going to have peaks and valleys. And again, we are here to save those low bottoms, hopefully, or to raise those bottoms, but that they're really essential and that what we do in the valleys determines where we get to on the peaks. So again, we are part of the valley, so to speak, and that, yeah, I think we've been through some stuff and certainly some life experiences. I mean, I've been at the bottom of the well when there's no light at the top. And I'd say a year and 2 months ago, if you had talked to me then and dealing with my full plate and then some, and kind of in an environment of looming loss under some pretty dire situations that weren't allowing me to get resourced like I need to be. And it really was a deep, dark bottom. And I've been to a bunch of bottoms in my life, and it was one of the darkest. But what I've developed is a patience to know that the wisdom is at the bottom if I'm doing the steps right. So we don't become as averse. And again, I'm not suggesting anybody needs to go to the bottoms I've been to, but that's how it rolled out. I was not resourced. I mean, I coached at the time, but sometimes what's uncopable has to do with our resourcing. But if we're aware and awake and we're taking right steps, maybe that's reading right books, listening to right podcasts, that sort of thing, listening to, connecting with you or I, that the wisdom's there. And then as you start making the way back up out of that valley or well or bottom, it's in an exponentially different place than you went into it. And the tools are sharpened and there's more of them and we're more equipped for the next time. So yes, I think we can raise people's bottom so that they get further faster without losing that substance that is in the valleys, even if they're low, high valleys.
Right.
And I love that. That's a great book for anybody. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's one of my all-time favorites. Again, Peaks and Valleys by Spencer Johnson.
Gotcha. Well, then let's do this. I'm going to write this down and I will bring up your banner and just tell people how they can get a hold of you and how you can help.
All right. So I'm Kimberly Mansfield. You can reach me, hit me up for a free power half hour on skilledclarity.com. The links there will connect to me, and we can figure out sort of what your need, plan, purpose that you're looking for some support with, or if you just want to shoot the you know what for 30 minutes, happy to do that too. But skilledclarity.com is the easiest. If you feel like reaching out to me at skilledclarity.esq on Instagram, you're welcome to do that too. Either way, let's just connect and see what clarity might look like for you.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. So, and who was the author again? Sorry.
Spencer Johnson. Let me make sure I'm right. I'm pretty sure I'm right. I know it's Spencer.
All right.
I'm looking. I have a wall full of books, so it's like, where is it? I swear I just had my hand on it the other day. But yeah, big reader here. So
well, yeah, what was for a normal person would be their dining room like liquor cabinet, since I don't drink, is my dining room library, and
yeah,
it's overflowing. So yeah, and I ordered 2 more yesterday. Thanks, Russell.
Nice.
Thanks, Russell Brunson, for that one. He was on Instagram yesterday, and he's talking about how this book that he was reading, and I was like, all right, that sounds pretty cool. I'm going to get that one. So, okay, so let's take the flip side of that and say, what is it about the just general population that they either are hesitant, or that they're afraid of, or that they just won't like take a step to get someone to help them, or they get too far in before they actually reach out? Like what are those factors that you see?
If we're saying general population,
Yeah.
people don't know. People don't know people who have coaches. People don't know friends who have coaches. I mean, there's plenty of coaches out there. People don't know it's a role. They don't know it's an option. It also kind of goes in that all or nothing. Oh, it's one more thing to do. It's one more thing to buy. It's more money out the door, not realizing that, of course, all the benefits swing around and, override all of those things. But like anything else, life's crazy. But I think at the Gen Pop level, I think it really, as much as we want it to be conversational and a normal role in lives, I don't think it is. It's not, even in my circles and my colleagues and all this. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
They listen and go, oh, cool. And many of them, and why I'm really focusing entirely on this now, is because people reached out to me for exactly these things in a conversational setting. They'll just reach out to bat something around and on. That's exactly what they're getting. They don't realize that they're reaching out. I mean, I'm talking about, over the course of years and years and years. I mean, it was my actors and clients, like presentation skills executives and stuff, who reached out, and their feedback is what taught me that I was a coach. Because their feedback was, oh, these are great. My presentation went great. The show went great. I learned this, that, and the other. But my life, you changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whoa, all right. I just did it because at that time I didn't have a academic background. I mean, I was a returning student. I went to still decades later. I didn't, I'm a first generation college student. So
Mm-hmm.
I was doing things by intuition, and because they worked, and because they seemed right to me, because they worked for me, and because I watched them work with my actors and with my executives.
Mm-hmm.
And the feedback was nonlinear, I guess, is a way of saying it.
Mm-hmm.
They taught me that I coach. And that's, again, that was 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so it has threaded its way through all sorts of vehicles that I've undertaken, including law, but I've never lost my, I guess, approach, which was as a guide, facilitator, trainer, coach, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But I really think people don't know.
Well, we're hopefully changing that little bit by little bit, because I agree with you. People do need the general population, like, they need to know that there is help out there, that there are people willing to, and with the skills and the programs that actually can improve their lives. Um, just because, your parents and your grandfather, they were just hardcore, like, you just suck it up and just keep going forward. That doesn't mean that that's you or your kids or the next generation, whatever. Um, but you need to know, I mean, the most successful people in the world, they don't just have a coach. They probably got like 5 or 6 for different aspects of their life. And it's not that some of them are there not because they specifically need like guidance or help in a certain area. They might bring them on as a coach because that person offers a different perspective. Someone that they get along, but they're on the opposite sides of the coin with a lot of stuff. And it's someone that they can talk to and get someone else's viewpoint on it. And sometimes that's a powerful thing. You get what you thinking, this is great, this is perfect. And then someone else comes in and goes, have you thought of this? Or this is what I see. And all of a sudden you're like, I almost launched that. That would have been terrible. So I think, it's knowledge, absolutely, for sure. And so then let's take that a step further. So say again, just general population, say there's a percent that knows that coaching is available, and they have either been online or they've done their research, or they got an ad or they watched a podcast or whatever. What do you see as kind of some of the fears of taking the next step and actually going out and contacting one and potentially hiring someone?
I think one, sometimes there's an economic, and this doesn't mean they know what the investment is, but sometimes there's that economic hesitation. It's one more thing. I mean, life's never been more expensive than it is right now. So I think that's not insignificant. But I think it's also one more thing on the schedule. One more thing to do, one more person to interact with. I think that people don't know how it's going to work. They don't know how it's going to go. They don't know why they would do it. They sense that there's more to life than the status quo, but they don't know specifically where in their life they need something. Some do. Some have a relationship or a work thing or a whatever, or a personal pursuit that they're not making progress on. I mean, some people do know specifically where they need support, but a lot don't. They just have sort of this, what I call just sort of a vague malaise of going on. But then some also know that they may have to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And they, at some level, even if they don't call it in so many words, they know that this is going to take them stepping up to the plate. And I'm not sure it's them going, I'm not stepping up to the plate. I don't think it's that at all. But I do think that there's a subconscious thing in there that pulls them back. I think there is that. I think there's a fair amount of truth to the old, we're as afraid of success as we are as failure, sometimes more.
Mm-hmm.
What would that mean if I actually did what it is I'm having an inkling to do, or where I think I'd move forward? How many other things in my life would that change? But there are oftentimes some of the best, most necessary changes if you want to be on this path and you don't want to live, Groundhog Day every day, is that sometimes there are upsides that we forego to be on what is a really truthful path. It's just over a year ago, it was an end to a long-term relationship, and there were significant upsides to forgo, which is why it took a long time of contemplating and really digging deep and really getting tapped into my absolute core. What is it right here, right now? Am I 100% me? Because, oh boy, the list of upsides was massive.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that. That's the value that I will always have for the most enriching, biggest learning curve of my life, that I will always hold this high. And there's a love in there that will never, ever, ever die. But there had to be a shift for my involvement. And it was on a deep level. But sometimes if I'd have just looked at the upsides and not gone really, really deep on the core, I mean, I would call myself crazy
Mm-hmm.
for giving that up. That's how significant the upsides were,
Mm-hmm.
which tells me that that's how important and how deeply aligned the downsides were. What I could not live fully, just me, myself, where I needed to go, that I couldn't sacrifice that.
Yeah, it's like, the upsides will only motivate you so far, but it's it's the fear or the experience of the opposite, the negative, that typically drives people to decisions. It's not that, you could put everything out in front of them and they're going to look at it and be critical of it. But as soon as it's a pain that they're experiencing, like they're not taking your example, but say they are just sick of their job and they know there's other stuff to do, and they've looked at like ulterior, income streams and cash flow and stuff like that, and they've looked at it and they're kind of comfortable and it's not a big enough kind of carrot out there. What happens is they'll go along and they won't do anything, and then their boss will yell at them one last time, and that's the pain that typically will drive a decision, rather than because those opportunities are the same. Those didn't change. It's just you didn't make a decision until your pain was elevated to a point that you're like, I can't. Now it's not, I don't want to do this. Now it's, I can't do this anymore. I have to make this change, and I have to do something different. And that's the part where you and I have to, or we hope we get involved, is as soon as that pain gets to that point and they're like, I need help, that's where we can step in, because we're right at the precipice at that point. They haven't necessarily fallen, they haven't gone through that, falling into the valley yet. And if we can get them there, it'll be a smoother ride, it'll be a quicker ride. You'll have support and coaching and guidance and all this stuff that goes with it. If as soon as you feel that pain, just get help. And you're right, there's tons of coaches out there, and the biggest thing is just find someone that resonates with what you want. We're all different, we all talk different, we all have different methodologies and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Find someone that is like that. When you jump on a call as an information call, which should be free, right? I mean, mine is, I know yours is. But when you get on there, it's like, does this make sense? Do we get along? Does what he's telling me, does it resonate? And it'll get me to take action, because that's the biggest thing. We can be friends all day long, but if what I'm telling you and coaching you isn't getting you to take action, then I'm not your coach, because it doesn't matter what's said. It's what you do that actually gets the results and gets you making progress and, changing the trajectory of your life.
Yeah, and I don't get the impression, at least, that either one of us is advocating for jumping ship on relationships or jobs or anything like that because they get inconvenient or uncomfortable. Just so everyone knows
Right.
that I certainly, like, my shift, my change that I just spoke of, there was nothing big on the table at that moment. What it had come to in terms that came to me, and I went, whoa, okay. And that's when I had to decide to forfeit upsides, was when I really felt like it was a slow suicide of my true soul.
Mm.
my true inclinations of how I wanted to go and be and exist in the world. So I'm not encouraging anyone to make those reactive things. But yes, you do. If you don't attend to them before, you get to a point where you do make reactive
Mm-hmm.
decisions. But that in getting also in my experience with clients and in life is that if we get the assistance sooner, exactly what you're saying, get some support sooner and think through things and get the clarity. And again, to me, big on the ownership. What's my role? That sometimes in the way that we're processing the whole thing, the lens we're filtering things through, the
Mm-hmm.
circuitry and the chemistry that we're living in, and all of that, those through things that we can, when we start attending to those, sometimes it shifts how that dynamic that we're getting pain from is. Sometimes it becomes less painful. Sometimes we realize that we were contributing to the pain
Mm-hmm.
and how not to. I had a brilliant client. I consider her brilliant because she was a legal client and who really said, I don't want to, and had been in a long term, like post divorce custody, acrimonious custody situation, and said, I don't want to contribute to our poor communication. Like, I don't want to contribute to it not working. Like, we're getting through it, we're getting it done. It's not, it's it's inflammatory, it's uncomfortable, there's a lot of acrimony. I don't want to contribute to it. And she already was doing fairly good. But then we dug into and parsed into the language and actually got where she was less contributing to it in ways that she didn't. So we're big blind spotters, right? I don't want people to be blindsided by their blind spots. We all are, but we don't have to be.
Right.
So in changing her input, I said, just wait, we'll put it out there and there's no guarantee that it will shift what we get back by doing this, but there's a really good chance that it will. And
Mm-hmm.
the responses that came back were unprecedented. The response in the same, nothing else had changed except the language and the way she communicated. And again, she was pretty good before, but she knew that somehow she's like, I don't want to be doing anything that contributes to this. This is stressful. And so we fine-tuned that. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
most of my clients are accomplished, have the big things in order. Home, work, shirt on their back, that sort of thing. So they're really looking to fine-tune where they're coming from. And that was really fine-tuning on her part. And it was very instantaneous in that part. I've had numerous clients who have done that and been in a court situation where they did it in court but they're more excited that the next day they kind of used similar, that it spilled over to their work situation and they caught all this feedback from around them. And they're more excited about that
Yeah. Well,
because
it's
we
a
can't
ripple
control
effect.
those people. However, this is where the chemistry and the circuitry, and if we're not attuning to all of this and mind-body integration, if we are not bringing that piece into play, we are leaving our best selves on the table because we are all humans. And at the end of the day, we're dealing with humans. And
Mm-hmm.
those are animalistic mechanisms. Okay. They're biological mechanisms. So yes, we can de-escalate things oftentimes. So I think, and again, before people get to the pain points where they're reactive, and I think sometimes that's important. I do think sometimes we have to get to a point where it just snaps and everything becomes clear. We go, nope, it's all added up to this point. And like you said, something happens with the boss, you go, that's the last time. That's
Mm-hmm.
the last time. And we finally set a boundary. I think that happens. But I think equally often, maybe more often, there's this lead up where we haven't exercised all of our power. We haven't taken full ownership of our role, exercised our power there, and then seen where that would get us in our situation before making that determination. That we have powers that we don't get. We don't understand how much sort of passive power that we have if we shift where we are internally.
Mm-hmm.
Not being manipulative. That's not what this is about. But it does, by consequence, it does have an influence on the situation. Is it sufficient to to make you want to be in a situation or continue in a situation? Well, who knows? But you don't know until you get
Hmm.
there.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So, I mean, the biggest lesson I think coming out of today is just for the people out there, people like Kimberly, people like myself, there's a lot of us out here. Just if you find yourself in a situation where you're stuck or, you're finding yourself on that just autopilot of life and you want something different and want something to change, look up Kimberly, go to the goproject9life.com. Again, we both offer free consultation calls, and you should expect that, where we're going to talk to you, because not only can we help, but we know who we can help. So if it's not a right fit for either side, then you're not obligated. It costs you a half hour of time and you might have learned something about yourself. So,
Yeah, I mean, I would say even if you don't know where your sticking points at, or you don't know these um those things, we can chat and it might be enlightening
mm-hmm.
because you don't know what you don't know. And blind spots are blind spots. So
Yes.
where are those? I mean, it's fun sometimes to spin out in a safe, non-committed, trusting environment and chat around. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what appear to be some blind spots you might not be thinking? Because blind spots are opportunity. They're not failings, they're not character flaws, they're opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell clients what I told all my legal clients, which is I don't get paid to tell you what you want to hear. But if you really want some just unbiased, neutral, third party feedback from somebody who's been doing this for a while and has lived it and learned it and taught it, who has coaches of my own and all that, like, it can be really fun. And you don't have to love the individuals you inter interact with in this way. Just if you can listen for 30 minutes, if you can have an open mind for 30 minutes, it may go
Mm-hmm.
no farther than that, but sometimes it's really enlightening, and I think people would be shocked that it's opportunity. What they're unearthing is opportunity, not flaws. That's
Right.
not what we're about. It's about this. We come about something that you don't want to be the same a year from now, and we go, "Opportunity. It's opportunity," you know?
That's
It's
exact.
potential.
That's exactly it. It's I think it was Brandon Dawson from Grant's team that he said that if you want to truly change the trajectory and where you're going in life, it's going to take a year, and you have to have all these things that go along with it. But it's all doable, and it doesn't matter if you're 30 or if you're 60. If you want something differently, it's going to take a year until you get there, but that whole year you're making progress. You're seeing those positive impacts of the changes that you are making or that you're working through. And eventually you're going to get to the point where you'll realize it, and it's a cool experience when you do. It's no longer what you're doing, it's now who you are. And when
And
you
it
make
sneaks up
that
on you.
and when you make that transition, the sky is the limit at that point, because you are going to be full of confidence and looking for opportunities absolutely everywhere. And it happens, and it's so cool to see, because people will sit like this and all of a sudden they'll just show up one week and they'll be like this. Their posture is different, their energy is different, their energy and their just like how they talk about stuff is all different. And it's very cool when people get to that point. So all right, Kimberly, we got about a minute and a half, actually, yeah, about that left. So I will leave it to you to say some closing words over here, and then kick us out of here.
Oh, man. Thanks for having me. This is a great time, great conversation. I was like talking about this stuff, and I hope that all it does, if it, at the very least, that it opens a crack in the door, that people entertain the idea that how life is today and in this moment Doesn't have to be the same. I mean, it won't be the same. Nothing's the same because that's the nature of life, but that you can explore the possibilities, the what ifs. So you don't have to, nothing big has to be on the table. It can
Mhm.
be. Sometimes you need to address, but it doesn't have to be that we can just simply be in the what if, what if I thought about this? What if I thought about coaching? What if I wanted to, grow? What does that mean? What might it look like? And that's enough. This is one really short life. I think that life's too short not to love it, and that we don't do that by default living, and that there's an aggregation of marginal gains. So tiny little things end up with profound impacts that will sneak up on you and will spill over, and that it can be really nonlinear.
Mhm.
So explore, jump, try it out, give it a whirl. It's a
Yeah,
no risk opportunity to do that.
yeah, exactly, and that's exactly what it is. It's like you said, it's a half-hour chat with one of us that you may or may not decide, or we may or may not decide that we're a right fit for each other for a coaching program. But it's
Absolutely.
going to be a good conversation, and it might enlighten you into some stuff that you weren't aware of, or that there are different ways to go about it than just to keep plowing ahead. So, all right, Kimberly, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for coming. And
Got it.
for everyone else, thanks for watching Personal Development Hacks, and we'll see you guys again soon. Thanks.